Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's Beyond the Tech podcast. I'm Neda Maria Kaizumi, your host, and with us, we are honored to have Mr. Rami Mäkela as our guest. Mr. Mäkela is a visionary tech leader whose career spans over 2 decades across enterprise architecture, AI strategy, and transformative digital solutions. Currently serving as head of data architecture at the UK's Intellectual Property Office, Mr. Mäkela is at the forefront of driving data and AI innovation within the public sector. His journey has taken him from leading roles in startups and consultancies to executive positions like CTO at Nomensa and founding Viadata Ltd, where he continues to deliver intelligent, time-saving solutions. Whether it's scaling a complex data system, enabling strategic changes, or building empowered tech teams, Mr. Mäkela brings deep expertise, sharp insight, and a passion for practical human-centered innovations. Mr. Mäkela, welcome to the show today. We are so honored to have you.
Well, thank you very much for those kind words, and pleasure to be here and discussing with you today.
Thank you. You have a very interesting background by starting your career as Chief Development Officer and being in various roles and now Head of Data Architecture over the last 25 years. How do you summarize the role of evolving technology in shaping your career, and how much you think you have used AI to advance different companies like the one that you're working for?
A very good question. Yeah. It's well, has it been that long already? It's been a journey, I guess. And that makes it a little bit, would take a lot of time to take you through all of that. But in a nutshell, I guess it's been a kind of a journey of continuous improvement and learning. And there's been lots of changes during that time from the sheer technical capabilities that we started kind of with that sort of a constrained and limited space, coming all the way to this new cloud-based world, which actually, there's not that many limitations for us. And there's been changes in the ways of working as well, coming from, waterfall kind of a development space to Agile Manifesto and all the Agile ways of working, and to DevOps as the kind of final straw of that development. And then there's been things like from my respect, it's been, from my point of view, things like open source have been quite powerful during this time, and I'm very much for that, and have been developing on that paradigm as well. And then there's been changes on the languages and other ways we do things. And in the last maybe a little bit over 5 years, it's been more or less about machine learning and artificial intelligence. And on that side, so I think my journey on artificial intelligence kind of started back in 2007, I guess. And I started with really small things and did some applications on it. But then there was a period of time that nothing much happened because we didn't have the tools or the capabilities to run those algorithms at scale, at least. But the last 5 years has probably just been focused on that, actually, and I've been happy to put all that knowledge into good use. And some of the things that I've been working with, for example, with Azure AI, has been optimizing processes, for example, the business as usual processes, and taking those into AI-controlled implementations, where the specialist work is left to the actual specialist teams, but the bulk of the processing is done by AI. And then in my current position, we do use AI for kind of pre-screening applications in that sense, to see if there are similarities between them and so on. But we try to do that in an ethical way, and to keep the public informed on all all things that we do in AI.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and I have a couple of follow-up questions. The first is that you were talking about all these changes and evolutions. We talked about Azure AI, talked about DigiDevs, and all those things. Could you discuss some challenges and opportunities that you've encountered while implementing these new technologies in sales organizations?
I think when the machine learning and AI started coming back or kind of emerged as a kind of it wasn't mainstream technology to use still. It took lots of I think selling and convincing that we could do this and we could do it in scale and we could do things automatically, things that people were used to doing just manually actually, because they were complex tasks. But with these learning algorithms, it became quite easy actually to automate. Something like let's say an application management, and when people apply for things to have this sort of a decision-making support with that. So it kind of made sense, but we did need to use lots of persuasion and doing POCs, proof of concepts, around machine learning and AI. That was probably the biggest thing to overcome. And then beyond that sort of thing, from the technical point of view, early on it wasn't that easy to train the models, to find the training data, and figure out ways to label the data correctly. And well, the tools were a little bit constrained as well, as opposed to the current situation where we have lots of training data available freely in the internet and also good tools to go with.
Absolutely. I love that there is more data and we can train even more and everything becomes better. That's the beauty part of it. In your experience, how can companies effectively integrate emerging technology to boost sales team performance?
Yeah, good question. I think there's things that we can do and things that are kind of the same, that has kind of remained the same. So there's the kind of the underlying understanding of the customer and what are we trying to achieve with our sales process in the first place, and that's sort of a win-win situation with the commercials. But then there's the opportunity to do that better, scale that better. And it can actually work throughout the sales process. So if we think sales as a funnel, like the classical view of it. So in the very beginning of that funnel, like lead generation and getting those discussions happening with the customers, for example. So there's lots of new tools. There's obviously the whole social media, well, all of the platforms like LinkedIn and lots of others. But beyond that, there's also new opportunities through either the large language models like the ChatGPT or Gemini, for example, to actually analyze that data, have those maybe chat agents speaking with the customers and taking that processed and analyzed data to the sales team, to the sales process at scale, and then combine the information so that actually the whole team or teams, all of them have the same information and they can act based on that. And that's probably something that improves the performance quite well. I've used that in a project environment. In Nomensa, we had to sell lots of projects, or we got to sell lots of projects anyways, and work with lots of different projects. So we actually had to unify that sales process as much as we could to make it efficient.
Absolutely. Speaking of tools, I know some of my previous clients that had the most advanced tools, and they were having AI on very advanced level. but I know that they still failed. And in my personal opinion, I think there is this strategy that is failing. So, in your experience, what strategies do you recommend for aligning sales initiative with overall business objective in rapidly changing technological landscape?
My view of the architecture actually is quite simple. There's usually, in the heart of it or center of it, there's the sales process. So we should actually attach all the tools to support that process. So maybe that would be one of the messages from the board, for example, to the organization, that to focus on that process, and then to drive all the training and kind of the new development on these, well, let's say the large language model tools through that process. So it's kind of to go back to the basics, so to speak, and build it around. Build the approach around the sales process.
A point here, because if you don't anchor with the management team and leadership and you don't get their commitment, so it's not so much you can do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree 100%. You'll have to have the buy-in from all levels, but obviously from the top decision makers. That's imperative.
Great. I have again, as I said, I had two follow-ups. So the other follow-up question that I had, you mentioned about ethical AI, and I just want to learn a little bit what ethical considerations should organization keep in mind when developing AI technologies, both in sales and marketing, because it can be a very tricky situation when you use AI for these two purposes with regard to ethical considerations. So I would like to hear a little bit more from you.
Yes. Yeah, cool. The ethical side of things. We have been looking lots of on frameworks for ethical use of data and ethical AI as well. On ethics in general, I guess there's kind of headlines or things that kind of come with ethics or ethical thinking, and those are kind of things like transparency, fair use of the algorithms and the underlying data, getting consent from whoever owns the data, for example, or whoever owns the algorithm for that matter, and getting those kind of building blocks in the right order. And then the transparency, like which sort of algorithms are we using for what purpose, who gets access to those, who gets to use the results, and for what purpose it's used in the end. I would say those are kind of the main things in ethical consideration, but usually these frameworks, they do have lots of things to go with, so there might be also legal requirements or requirements arising from different standards, like ISO standards or something like that, and maybe also coming to the ownership side of things, to kind of require that sort of transparency from these tools like the large language models as well. Well, I'll take the Gemini as an example, to require that it's also kind of transparent on where it gets it, does it get its sources, and which of them did it use for this sort of analytics or decision making.
Thank you for sharing that insight. Now we're talking about ethical AI, and you have heard about AI Act came to Europe. I would like to hear your personal view on what do you think is positive and challenging implementing the Responsible AI and AI Act in companies both in Europe and US.
Yes, good question. First of all, I think it's great to have regulation and consideration on a European level and on a national level as well, because that brings about hope, and that there's ways to work with the AI, and not to rein it in, but to enable kind of good working relationship with it. And kind of have these common rules between for all organizations that work with AI. and the data that's required with that. So there's so the act obviously has it sets some boundaries around AI, the use of AI, the classification. It requires the classification of how the AI is used and for which purpose and so on, and it kind of highlights the risk management aspect of it. So it has kind of a critical dimension on it, so that if a service falls into the critical category, it has more responsibilities, like reporting on it, like disclosing more on a national or European level. So that being said, that obviously the US market things are more free on that market. So there's something to consider, I guess, that you'll need this. You'll need to the service might need to abide with the Artificial Intelligence Act by next year, actually, on 2026. But it might need another approach in the US market. But equally, we could opt to have a single kind of approach for both of them. There's some things I think that will change how organizations and companies need to work with this act, because there's things like the CE mark, the certificate of kind of authenticity, or that the service can be used in Europe, in EU, and that's also kind of that's included in the AI Act, and through that it kind of touches all the services that are provided, even those that are not yet using AI. But those are probably the main things that come to my mind.
Thank you for sharing that. Well, last but not least, if you had access to unlimited resources, what AI projects or initiative would you pursue to make a significant impact in sales domain in future?
Cool. It's a dangerous question, obviously. Good one. If there were kind of all those resources to use, I would actually probably go with an initiative for this sort of an edge AI thing to enable real-time decision-making capability on those sales leads, for example, and on based on those initial chats with the customer. And I would probably go with another feature as well, which I've just named it as negotiation in my mind. So to enable that sort of little bit deeper negotiation with the customers to take the use of AI kind of to the next level beyond just having a casual discussion.
That's interesting. So I see that we have a couple of more minutes I can use for the, I said last, but I would like to share a fun fact with you. A couple of my colleagues from Harvard Business School and we are using AI to reduce a school shooting in the US. We are prototyping to find a pattern and use the live data monitoring. What do you think about this project, and what kind of advices you may have for us as an AI specialist?
It sounds very, very, very interesting and an important project, because obviously it can have like enormous effect on people's lives. So very much for it. First of all, I think that AI can bring a lot to that, so it can analyze the information we have available, people's sentiments, intentions, and that sort of things. And that might be something that you are kind of considering with that project, and with wider social issues as well. But I would say that, well, beyond the good intentions, then to consider also the difficult parts of it, the equation there, to keep it kind of open and accessible for various stakeholders there, and transparent, like what information you are using. Although I do understand you might have limitations because of this the purpose, so that people can kind of go around the solution, so to speak. But maybe those things, and yeah, Well, the one thing I was thinking maybe to also to consider that the AI might give wrong answers, kind of hallucinations or that sort of things. So to kind of take those out of the equation.
That's definitely brilliant advice. Thank you so much. Well, Mr. Mäkelä, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure that a lot of audiences and investors that may come to you with your brilliant idea will love this show and will come back to you. Thank you so much for having you today.
Thank you very much, Neda.